Rajasthan, yeah.
Is there any evidence of these wells and these parks as existing?
The Guna well is existing. I mean, of course, the name is not the similar in the inscription, but the inscription was found in that well itself. So it is considered there is no need of somebody porting this particular inscription and putting it in, dropping it in that particular well.
Great. So is there any park associated with that well?
Is there any?
Any park that you mentioned? There are parks, Arama, that's...
No, unfortunately nothing is mentioned. It's only this particular well which was found.
Can one have any conjectures? What would these parks be like? Shouldn't the water, the well, be providing water also for, if these parks are like a modern day gardens? So be providing water for those too. So the well will not only be for consumption, water consumption for human
No,
beings.
definitely. That's what I'm saying. That the archaeological exploration or survey has not been carried out over there in this particular area. And of course, there is no question you can do it in Pakistan because most of these inscriptions were found somewhere and then they were kept either in the museum. So we don't know where they are exactly. But in case of this two inscriptions, unfortunately, Gunda, there has not been enough exploration about it. Similar with Mat, because Mat also in Uttar Pradesh, it mentions Arama, Upadana, Pushkarni, etc., etc. So that has not been properly excavated yet.
Udapana is mentioned in the Gita also.
Okay.
But that is it's a very famous stanza there. So it says, Yavanartha Udapane sarvatas samplutodake tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanata. That is, if the whole area is flooded, what value will you put on a well? Similarly, what value will a knowledgeable or a wise Brahmin put on all the Vedas? You can see it's not a very favorable kind of a comment on the Vedas.
Yeah.
There are a few such comments, of course, in the Gita. Secondly, I don't think you have gone into Sanskrit literature. I don't know.
No, I mean, for this particular paper, I'm looking only at the Brihad Samhita.
You have mentions of some Pahlavis. No, Raghuvamsha, when it talks about Raghu's Digvijay, there is a mention of the Parsikas.
Yeah.
And there are actually many, in that Digvijay, there are many references to different systems.
Yes, yes. No, even in Mahabharata, Balika and everybody, I mean, Gandhari comes from Gandhara itself.
But Parasikas are specially mentioned.
Yes.
And Parasik women, you will have to read the description.
Okay.
Thank you.
Also mention of the Persian wheel comes only in the time of Kumaragupta.
Okay.
State.
Okay.
So
Till then,
it might have been earlier the
references during that.
Kumaragupta.
Okay. Thank you.
But we have in Rigveda Ashwachakra. Ashwachakra is mentioned in Rigveda. Ashwachakra. That is also related to water mill, especially lift irrigation. I am going to refer to
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Dr. Kanetkar, युजफुल कलेक्शन्स केलं त्याने आणि अतिशय चांगल्या पद्धतीने प्रेझेंट केलं. याच्यामुळं एक वेगळा आयाम या वॉटर मॅनेजमेंटच्या कामाला प्राप्त होऊ शकतो आणि याही पुढे काम करावं. सुदर्शन टँक तर इतका लोकप्रिय होता की वाकाटकांनी नंतर जे जलाशय बांधला त्याला त्यांनी सुदर्शन टँक असं नाव दिलं विदर्भामध्ये. हां, त्याला म्हणजे त्याची ख्याती आणि प्रतिष्ठा इतकी होती की जसं आपलं प्रतिष्ठान पैठणचं नाव उत्तर तिकडं पाहून इकडं स्थापन केलं तसं सातवाहनांनी तसं हे सुदर्शन टँक हा खूप पॉप्युलर झाला.
आणि त्यावेळेच्या सुद्धा वित्तमंत्र्यांनी
हो
त्याच्या दुरुस्तीला फंड्स नाहीत म्हणूनच सांगितलं होतं. तेव्हा राज्यांनी स्वतःच्या फंडमधून ते केलं.
ते विशेष आहे.
पण तो कितव्या शतकात तारखेला
शेवटचं इन्स्क्रिप्शन आहे ते 5th सेंचुरीतलं.
नाही म्हणजे मला असं वाटतं की 9th सेंचुरीपर्यंत तो होता असं मी कुठेतरी वाचलंय. अँड देन इट गेव वे. हा तो सुदर्शन लेख
तो 6व्या शतकापर्यंत 7व्या शतकापर्यंत ते असावं. कारण की ते पुढे ते नाव मग येत नाही. 9व्या शतकानंतर ते तसे नाव दिले नाहीत कोणी. हां हां
We can see. Now it is dilapidated. We can see the remains.
त्या गणेशवाडी इन्स्क्रिप्शनमध्ये चालुक्यांनी तो भीम तडाग नावाचा तडाग बांधला. 1972च्या दुष्काळामध्ये त्याचं जे दगडी बांधकाम होतं ते तोडून त्याचा रोड बांधला. आणि नंतर पुन्हा आता त्याच ठिकाणी त्या साईडला नवीन डॅम.
Prithvi Samudra, for example.
हां
In the Rockered times, there is mention of one Prithvi Samudra, and that is Mohenjo-Daro. That Mohenjo-Daro.
एनिवे
Jagattuka Samudra of the Rashtrakuta.
त्यांना बोलायचं.
या प्लीज
But if it's not common, all big one probably in the world.
Including the Kamba Ramayana, or you take important text, they talk about the Thadaga. So that is how it is known as Thadagam. And every individual plot in the house had its own small little well. And this Thadagam used to be a happening place in all the epics and Puranas, where even including the Guha meeting the Rama, and the Shakuntala and Dushyant. So various episodes are described in and around the Thadagam. So, but somehow I think here it's in the larger context. So I think the individual wells and other things have been done away with. That's my observation.
Thank you, sir.
We are going to have a small interval tea break for 10 minutes.
Evening. May I invite Dr. Madhvi Saleh to kindly chair this session. Before I introduce Dr. Madhvi Saleh, I would like to share with you all that it was indeed a fortuitous occasion when I was advised to speak about and introduce Dr. Madhvi Saleh, who will be chairing this session. For me, it is indeed a special honor because I was sort of under her tutelage for about a year when she introduced me to the amazing world of mysticism, which is a course being conducted by her in the Department of Sanskrit in Mumbai University. With this little bit of introduction where I had perchance been under her guidance, I'd like to mention that Dr. Madhvi Saleh is an assistant professor and head Department of Sanskrit, University of Mumbai. She has teaching experience for more than 20 years. She has participated in many national and international conferences, seminars, and symposia, and has 30 publications to her credit. She is known for her work in interdisciplinary studies, wherein she has combined ancient knowledge with the contemporary and established the relevance of Sanskrit and India culture in the modern era. She also works as a consultant to various media houses to leverage the power of Sanskrit and Indian culture in the present scenario. In the course, Establishing and Popularizing Religious Harmony, she successfully guided and completed the project on exploring the theological discourse for peaceful coexistence, which was a combined study of ancient Hindu scriptures with Quran and Hadith texts. She actively participates in Hindu-Christian dialogue and had been invited to Vatican City to contribute for the same. She has been associated with the Asiatic Society for the past 25 years. As I said, it's indeed a special honor for me to introduce ma'am. Now, may I request and invite Dr. Jamkhetkar, Dr. Kale, to kindly honor ma'am with a small gift. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Session for you, ma'am.
Jamkhedkar sir, Professor Dr. Uma Vaidya, Deshpande madam, Phatak sir, my teachers and friends, I take this opportunity to thank the organizers of the seminar for inviting me to chair this session. This session has two papers, and the first paper is by Dr. Milinda Paradkar, and the second paper is by Dr. Parinita Deshpande. So I request both the scholars to come on the dais. Let me take this opportunity of introducing Dr. Milinda Paradkar. He is working as the research officer at the PG Research Department of Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. He is a visiting faculty for Indology. He teaches at our department for the Indology elective. And also he is a visiting faculty for the Asiatic Society courses. Apart from teaching and research, he is into translations of English classics into Marathi for the reputed publication house Mehta Publications. His thesis has won a lot of laurels and awards, and he is an avid trekker and takes trips across different forts. So forts being his area of research. So he does that also to create awareness among the younger generation regarding our rich cultural heritage. So I request Dr. Milinda Paradkar to present a paper on water management from Harappan forts to medieval forts, story of a legacy.
Good evening, everybody. I'm reading my paper in Marathi. I think, is it okay with everybody? Thank you. Means both the options are available. I'm not saying that, but still I would like to. Yeah? From Harappan to medieval forts, that is the title of the paper. Selecting this particular topic, as Dr. Nasarle said, I have been trekking since 78, around 40 years. And the research topic came out of passion for the history as well as trekking. My thesis was about Prachin Bharatiya Durga Shastra and a comparative study of capital forts of Chhatrapati Shivaji. And while studying that, humming aayega? So while studying the subject, Today, I feel that was just the beginning. There are so many new topics coming up, so many new perspective to the thinking that I myself am amazed. And this is the same thing which I would like to highlight over here. Basically, to consider water as jivana or life by most of the ancient civilizations of the world. Rather, abundance of water must have been the primary criteria for these civilizations. During the course of his development as a human being, I'm talking about a man, primitive man, he cleared up, and that must have been the beginning of his sort of stable life. His nomadic lifestyle came to be seized as a settled town next to the perennial water sources. Around the globe have always expressed their gratitude towards water in many different ways. I'll be elaborating this particular point in my written paper. Sometimes it finds mention in the Vedas, sometimes it is expressed through the poetical expression of a sensitive mind, or otherwise it takes a form with the help of a creative mind. What I mean here is we just don't look at water as H2O. It has many different qualities, innate qualities rather, which needs to be experienced by a self, as today is the day when we are talking about water. That's why I'm trying to elaborate that. A hymn in the Atharva Veda says, "Let the taste of the water be good for us, be it free from diseases, ailments, and sins. Let it dry away the fear of mortality within us. Be our lives be showered by celestial bliss." So this was the way of looking at the element, the basic element. Varuna is considered as the god of water. Many of the hymns in the Vedas urge him to continuously provide water that is free of all flaws. The early civilizations not only expressed its gratitude in the literature, but followed it up with a very, very sensible use of water and its natural sources for their own spiritual and material development. This has been a peculiarity of all the ancient civilizations throughout the globe, all around the globe. But ages before such gratitude found a mention in the contemporary literature, a civilization took roots in the valleys of Sindhu and Saraswati rivers in the northwestern region of the Indian subcontinent. This happened during the 3rd millennium BCE, or maybe a bit beyond. What this civilization felt about the natural resource is difficult even to imagine because of lack of literary sources, but the archaeological evidences tell us a story that stretches our imagination beyond human limits. This civilization spread across the fertile regions of northern India, along with the valley of Ganga, Yamuna, and their tributaries. More than 100 sites showing their allegiance to the Indus civilization are excavated by archaeologists over a period of time. To name a few, Mohenjo-Daro, Harappa, and so on and so forth, are some of the names worth a mention. The water harvesting and management systems that the people of Indus civilization developed is so foolproof that it may be considered as a standard set or a prototype in the modern era also. I'm not elaborating on that because we'll be mentioning that in the paper again. The fortified cities of the Indus civilization find a direct mention in quite a few Rigvedic hymns. Whenever we hear or when we read a word Pura, that refers to a city which was obviously, even the excavated cities are fortified cities. The prayers are directed to Indra to destroy the Puras or the fortified cities of the Dasyus or the Panis. Indra has been referred as Purandar or the destroyer of the Puras. He has also been prayed to break the bunds and release the water that was under the control of the Dasyus. The tactic of either taking over the water sources, which are under enemy control, or destroying or poisoning it, is adopted even in modern warfare. The Kashyapiya Krishi Sukta, written between 800 to 700 BCE, discusses water conservation policies at length. In the 180 shlokas, he talks about the projects of reservoirs, their sizes, the locations, the kind of bunds to be constructed, the different kind of canals, wells, and their minute details, etc., which are very elaborately discussed in the Krishi Sukta. The contemporary excavated fortified cities of the Mahajanapadas display a well thought out water management system. This is again reflected to a certain extent in Kautilya's Arthashastra when Kautilya talks about the design of his fortified city, the famous Janapada. Water was thought about for the first time from economical, political, social angles in the Arthashastra of Kautilya. At least we don't know the previous instances where water has been thought about on these levels. Here we find for the first time that the central administration, the Mauryas, were actively involved in the subject of water management. I think the concept of Purta Karma, it started taking roots from this particular time. Hereafter we find people donating money, as everybody like Anand was saying, Suraj was saying, donating money to build Podhi, Pan Podhi, or Snana Podhi. So something like that. So here the state was directly involved. And this was the first instance rather. So the state is involved in the water management. Based on Megasthenes' account of Pataliputra, we can infer the design of the capital city with all necessary amenities and fortification at all, and a foolproof water management system in place. Contemporary scholars such as Charaka, Vagbhata, Varahamihira in the 6th century, Kashyapa have discussed water at a again I'm reiterating the word, at a different level. They don't talk about water at a H2O level rather. Once the Magadha Empire disappeared, the Satavahans, the Shungas, the Vakatakas, the Rashtrakutas, the Chalukyas established their reigns over different parts of the country over a period of time. This is the time when trade and commerce started picking up. We see a lot of ports being developed on the western seafront as well as the eastern seafront during the rule of Satavahans. Quite a huge amount of trade, and that is, one can easily say that a dynasty which ruled for around 400 to 450 years at a stretch without a break, it cannot survive without an equally strong economy. Satavahans were the people who were responsible for the Roman Empire to go bankrupt. I can say that because it's not me, but Pliny has said in one of the minuted accounts of the Roman Senate meeting. So protecting such trade activity, commercial activity, over such a long period of time, in such a huge amount, it definitely required a lot of precaution, protection of the trading community, protection of the Sarthavahas, protection of the trade guilds, because they were the backbone of the economy. So to protect them, obviously, like if a caravan of 20 or 30,000 bulls is traveling through the Ghats, you always require somebody to protect the wealth that was traveling on back of those bulls. So military units, the Lashkar was provided to the Sarthavahas. They were accompanying them from point A to point B. And in between, they required a point where they could gather themselves, rest, basically. And this was the birth of hill forts in Maharashtra. So when you say that, so it's a concept which was so far was existent in the northern part of India, where we find a lot of forts being built. But here, in a difficult geographical terrain, we find the forts which can be traced or can be compared chronologically with any of the caves, Buddhist caves, which have been carved out during that period. And the forts, though the geography changed, the basic principles, they always remained the same. And here we go through the photographs of certain forts which show us the kind of, here we are talking about the water management system, so we are just concentrating on that. So whatever images I'll be showing you will be about the tanks and the bunds. So here we go. So this is basically an aerial photograph of Mohenjo-Daro with a bath, common bath. On the left-hand side of the common bath, you can see a small little circle, so which is again a well. I am not an authority on Harappan culture, but still, these are the basic things which one enthusiast may know. So they had a very elaborate system, Mohenjo-Daro, I mean to say, in the civilization. Another famous for its water management system was obviously Dholavira. This is again another aerial photograph of the same site, where you can see it is like it's a small little fortified town. All the cities, all the towns in whatever has been excavated in the Indus civilization most of them are fortified with brick walls. So this is just to show. This is again Dholavira, this is Harappa. This is a picture of Dholavira's tank. This is a step well at Dholavira. Here we come to Shivneri. We are coming to forts. This is just to show, this taking a cue from the Indus civilization and applying it over here. So you have the same kind, as I said before, this is something which is comparable or chronologically comparable to the caves, Buddhist caves. So this is the same kind of thing. This is a tank underground, a tank which has been excavated on the slope of a ridge on fort of Shivneri. This is another lake. This is a medieval architecture again. This has been constructed at a much, much later date. So this is again on a slope, so the rainwater, it collects, so there is a sort of a bund. And during the monsoons, the whole level, it reaches the top level. This is the photograph of a fort called Savand. It's again comparable to Shivneri as far as chronology is concerned. It is on the trade route which comes from Kalyan to Junnar through Nanighat. And this fort is basically, these are the forts which basically were looking after the well-being of ancient trade routes. So this is a set of tanks, rock-cut cisterns. The peculiarity of this unit is there are around 8 or 10 water cisterns, and the color of water in each cistern is different, and even the taste also is different. We don't know the reason behind that. This is again a well on the same fort at Savand. This is on a Thana border, Adgarh, the same kind of structure. So this must have been a common feature of the water management system on forts during that time. These are all rock-cut cisterns. This is a fort called, near Igatpuri, there is a trio of forts called Alang, Kulang, and Madangarh. So this is one of the fort, and again you see a honeycomb structure of water cisterns. This is a fort near Nasik, Manmad, Ankai. It's a twin fort like Ankai and Tankai. So this is one of the fort, one of the water tank on that particular fort. This again is a rock-cut system. This is on Hathgarh, in the same region. You can see the rock has been cut as where the caves, how they were cut during that time. This is a fort called Hadsar near Trambakeshwar. So you see a sort of a small little pathway, and there is a small well inside the water. It may be meant for the water to be clean, so the kuda kachra doesn't fly inside the water tanks. This is on the same fort again. It's a cave turned into a water reservoir. This is like Alang we saw. This is the Kulang fort. It's a string of water cisterns. This is Kulang. It's a huge tank. These were basically carved out when there was the art of rock-cut architecture was alive. So this is one of the fort near Nasik on the Bagalan border, Salher and Murler. Salher is one of the highest fort. It's next to Kalsubai as far as height is concerned. And so this is the tank on Salher, and this is a natural spring. The height of this fort is around 5,300 odd from mean sea level. And here, I would like to mention a thing. So Varaha Mihira, in his Brihad Samhita, he has talked about in a couple of chapters, which are known as the Karagalam. So he talks about how to find subterranean water. And he has given a lot of observations. A particular kind of a stone, a particular kind of birds, particular kind of insects, particular kind of creepers, grass. So if these are available at a particular point, so there is subterranean water at that point. We generally know that there is उंबराचं झाड, आपण म्हणतो की उंबराच्या झाडाखाली पाणी असतं. आपल्याला हे एक ठाऊक आहे, पण वराहमिहिराने अनेक 2 अध्याय लिहिलेत त्या गोष्टीवर. So this is something की this art of finding water subterranean water was still alive in that time, even in the medieval period. Otherwise, to find, a spring water on top of, at such a height is just not possible. So this is a neighboring fort called Salota. This is, if you can see this is a summer. You can see the surroundings, it's dry grass, and you can see the kind of water that is still there. This is a fort near Safale, Tandulwadi. So again, the same kind of honeycomb structure. This is a fort called Hadasar near Savan. It's on the same trade route from Nanighat to Zunnar. So it's a huge tank over there. This is a famous Harishchandra Got Temple. It's a cave and water tanks inside. It's a Pashupata cave. This is a Pushkarini out on the Harishchandra Gat itself. It's a huge. There used to be 14 Vishnu Murtis in those 14 corners. They're gone now. On Harishchandra Gat, you find an epigraph which mentions Sangdev, who is a contemporary of Dhaneshwar. तो भिंत चालवत ज्याच्या भेटायला गेले आणि हा माणूस वाघावरनं जो आला होता, इज द सेम सांगदेव, त्या नावाचं एक शिलालेख हरिश्चंद्र गडावर आहे. This is Daulatabad. So it's a sort of a step well. Go ahead. I beg your pardon? Oh, sorry. End गेलो. I'm sorry. So this is another tank on Daulatabad Fort. This is a huge tank on Janjira at Murud. There are two like that. There are two tanks like that. There is always a kind of awe in the minds of people when we say there is a sweet water tank or a sweet water well on an island. So basically, it's once these islands were part of the mainland. So at the end of second ice age, when the water levels increased, the higher portion still remained on top of the water and became island. Like we have Sindhudurga Fort, so on Sindhudurga also we have sweet water wells. So this is Malangagad, which is more famously known as Haji Malang, in the hill of Haji Malang. So that again is a fort, and you can see a rock-cut system. The wall is a later addition. This is more like a famous spot for picnickers. It's near the Bhaza caves, Lohagad. So this is a rock-cut cistern. This lake was built by Nana Fadnis during the Peshwai times. You can see this is the spur of the Lohagad, which is known as Vinchukata Machi. But even on that part, at the bottom of the picture, you can see the shiny part that is a water tank. Here, this is Sinhagad Devtaka, which is again a natural spring. It's filtered water. You can see the water oozing out from the gaps on the thing. This is, I was talking about Sindhudurga. At the bottom, right-hand bottom, you can see a bluish patch, that is a lake, and there are 3 or 4 wells which can take care of the people living on the forts. This is Rajgarh, near Pune, the first capital of Shiva Chhatrapati. This is again Rajgarh. This is an area between the walls of, the fortified walls. They have used it as a water reservoir. This is a different way. This is a kind of a first when you see the forts. This is again a bund created. This lake is at a height of around 4,600 feet from the sea level, equivalent to Mahabaleshwar, and it's a spring water live. Here you can see the pillared tank, which some people may not say, but I say they point to the antiquity of the tank. The caves were being excavated. This is contemporary to that. This is Ratangad this is where the Pravara river originates. So this is again the honeycomb structure of tanks. This is Pratapgarh. This is Raigad. This is again Raigad, the Kushavarta lake. The previous was Ganga Sagar. This is Kushavarta. And this is Naradurga, the Nar and Madi waterfalls, which are like famous, but this is the outlet. This is Bijapur, Taj Baudi. This is, this I forgot the name, but this is a fort from Rajasthan. This is Nausheri or something like that. This is Chittorgarh. This is something which is, ma'am, can I have a couple of minutes more? Couple of minutes. Okay, thank you so much. This is one of a kind on Raigad. Raigad is the only, I have seen at least around 250 forts which are there out of 350 in Maharashtra. I mean to say the Sahyadris. Maharashtra is around 550 or 600 forts. So this is the very only kind I have seen. It has an underground, I mean to say concealed plumbing system all over the citadel of where Shivaji Raja was staying, where his family was staying, where his ministers were staying. So the citadel, the highest point of the fort, it has, so these are the outlets for the exhaust. So these are the kind of filters they have put in the bathrooms. This is another jali. And these are the copper pipes which carry water from one outlet to another outlet. I haven't seen such kind of elaborate water management system. They have a Jalamandir in which whatever rainfall is there in the citadel, which is the highest point, it is filtered through the soil and it's collected at around 100 feet deeper and collected into a small little tank on the outskirts of Kushavarta lake. So this is basically, I was trying to convey whatever the people, I'll be elaborating it in my paper, but this is what we always had in mind about the importance of water, how to conserve it, how to use it, how to utilize it to its maximum. That has been carried forward for more than 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 years. There is a small little book called Ajnapatra. It has been written by Shiva Chhatrapati's Amatya. He talks about the conservation, the water conservation, the importance of water. He says that if there is a natural spring and you are happy with the availability of water, he said, don't be at peace. Don't rest like that. Because during war, the cannons make a lot of noise, the cannons shake the ground, and the subterranean water may change its course. So you construct artificial tanks, fill up that water, and keep it throughout the year. गड़ा से पाणी नीट निरातीने वापरावे, झाकून ठेवायचं सगळं सगळं सगळं. So this is the legacy, and the final straw is the water management system in Pune, from Katras to Shaniwarwada. So that's where I'll end my paper. Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks a lot. Thanks, ma'am. Any questions or something? Yeah.
I have one or two pointed questions because of paucity of time.
Yours was a wonderful paper. In Manusmriti, there are 6 kind of durga
Forts
that are mentioned, and in one of that, you have a surrounding khandakas to protect the fort. So, are you referring anything about those things?
The moats were like a primary construction so to make the access to the fort, the main wall of the fort, difficult to the approaching enemy was the sole reason for the moat. It has nothing to do with a water supply kind of thing. The moat were filled with kamalakalikas, and they were used to be like crocodiles inside and everything. So that was nothing to do with water, like as far as potable water is concerned.
It was very informative about forts, and what comes to us is there may be natural springs on the forts, or it is like rainwater harvest.
There are quite a lot of natural springs on fort, like Raigad has, Rajgarh has. The major forts where a lot of army was staying, they always had. But in addition to that, as I said about Ajnapatra, they always standby water supply for their use.
Actually, my question is about the cleansing of water. Is there any such system to keep it clean, or apart from covering it or something? Because these are storages.
I know.
And as you showed in the slides, they are all open to sky.
I know, absolutely right.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. When we, in Sushruta Samhita, there is a procedure is given. की म्हणजे पाणी कसं स्वच्छ करायचं, त्याच्यात तापलेल्या विटा घालायच्या, किंवा फिल्टर्स कसं करायचं, किंवा लोखंडाचा गोळा पाण्यात टाकायचा तापलेला, की त्यातले जंतू सगळे मरून जातील. या पद्धतीचा विचार सुश्रुताने केलेला आहे, म्हणजे त्यांच्या संहितेमध्ये. हे एक सोर्स आपल्याला दिसतोय. देर मे बी सो मेनी अदर सोर्सेस विच कॅन हॅव, विच विल लीड टू एक्सप्लोरिंग डिफरंट वेज ऑफ, म्हणजे एक सुश्रुत संहितेमध्ये आपल्याला जाणवतं की बाबा ह्या पद्धतीचा विचार करणारी माणसं होती पाण्याच्या बाबतीमध्ये. प्युरिफाय वॉटर, हो. म्हणजे वराहमिहिर हा माणूस, म्हणजे एका जन्मात माणूस इतकं ऑब्झर्व करू शकतो, हे कठीण आहे. म्हणजे थँक्यू सो मच. थँक्स.
So the scholar had rightly pointed out that human settlement begins at the time of when humans settle down. The settlement begins around water sources, and one thing which I could connect is that life is sustained because of water, and life is destroyed also because of water. So you can see across different civilizations, most of these civilizations have flood stories associated with destruction. So he has taken an overview of how forts have a system of conserving and preserving water and purifying water also, and also he has also referred to number of literary sources. He has referred to literary sources also, and the paper was really very interesting. Thank you for this presentation. Next we have our own Deshpande madam. She needs no introduction, but of course I'll introduce her to you, that she is the director of the Mahamohopadhyay P.V. Kane Indological Research Institute under the auspices of the Asiatic Society of Mumbai, and she's a well-known figure in the field of research in Sanskrit, in Indology, as well as Buddhism. She has her master's degree in Sanskrit and Pali. So she is guiding students presently for MPhil and PhD degrees, and she has more than 30 papers, published papers to her credit, and 3 edited books. So Dr. Deshpande madam will be presenting a paper on Ancient Wisdom of Irrigation, Bhagiratha Vidya as gleaned through Sanskrit texts.
Namo Namaha. Thank you, Chairman. Mine is the last paper. There are some advantages and also disadvantages of presenting last. Advantages are that the work of the paper presenter becomes easy because many of the points are covered by other paper presenters. And disadvantage is that since we have come to the tail end of the papers, I don't want to try the patience of the audience and try to finish my paper before the given time. The idea was that the seminar was inaugurated by the keynote address of Dr. Uma Vaidya, which was full of Sanskrit references. So by end also, if some supplementing can be done, because in between all the papers were there covering this topic from archaeological point of view. So taking into that consideration, I am just going to mention 3-4 important points and finish my presentation. Natural resources such as sun, earth, river, ocean, wind, they have been worshipped in India as gods since time immemorial. And I feel that it is not a sheer coincidence that the king of gods, that is Indra, is the god of rain. So clearly, ancient Indians were aware of the importance of rain and water for the society. The ancient Sanskrit texts contain innumerous references to water as divinity, as elixir of life, having medicinal values, its various colors, tastes, its use in rituals, the efficacy of jaladana, etc., etc., so on. However, keeping aside all these points, I am trying to focus on that past where water was a common responsibility and where irrigation system was a product of that common responsibility. A reading of it suggests that, like other sciences, the science of water management was also well developed in ancient India, and people had developed the techniques to ensure equitable and sustainable water distribution. Dr. Kaka Saheb Kalelkar, in his book Lokamata, has named for all these techniques the term Bhagiratha Vidya, which also I have also used in my paper. What was the need for irrigation? That is, the uneven distribution of rainfall gave scope for irrigation system, and since the ancient time, the amount of rainfall was often predicted. The rainfall of different region was also ascertained. And in the text like Krishi Parashara, the methods of forecasting annual rainfalls are also given. After categorizing the clouds as Avarta, Samvarta, Pushkara, Drona, the works supply interesting information about the forecasting rainfall in a particular year by observing the natural phenomena like the first flash of lightning, the course of wind, etc. Kautilya has mentioned that 3 clouds, he says, they give continuously rain for 7 days in monsoon. 80 clouds pour minute drips, and 60 clouds, he says, they always appear with sunshine. Bruhat Samhita. Now, when the seminar is on water system or water management, it is inevitable that the name of Bruhat Samhita is mentioned quite often. He has recorded some signs of immediate rainfall, such as rising of the ants with eggs from their holes, then birds bathing with dust, etc. Of course, these texts contain many more details regarding the measurement of rain. He talks about also the Garbhalakshana, Garbhadhana, and also Pravarshana of the clouds. So from these varied sources, we can gather that the ancient Indians were probably the greatest water harvesters. It is fascinating to know how our forefathers managed water and evolved the techniques of water harvesting and irrigation systems for agriculture, drinking, and for household purposes. The ingenuity of the ancients was directed at developing technologies for storage of rainwater. Deficiencies of rainfall were overcome by some means or the other, by some or other form of irrigation such as canals, lakes, tanks, wells, artificial reservoirs, ponds, pool, etc. In Ramayana, the country of Kosala is described as Adeva Matruka, means which was not solely depending on rainfall. And according to Kautilya, not to depend entirely on rainwater was one of the attributes of a good country. Agriculture, along with the cattle rearing, was one of the main occupations of the ancient Indians, and water harvesting and distribution revolved around the water management for agriculture. Vedas emphasize the importance of efficient water use so as to reduce the intensity of water scarcity and drought, etc. In Rigveda, we find a reference to kulya, that is canals, dug to divert water from river for irrigation of the fields. Even the dry river beds were probably used as canals, according to one reference. In Mahabharata also, the word kulya is found, and Patanjali in his Mahabhashya mentions kulyas constructed for watering, especially the paddy fields, shalyartham kulyaha praniyante. For the further irrigation from the canals, Kautilya gives three methods of carrying water, such as hasta pravartita, skandha pravartita, and by canals, that is sroto yantra pravartita. And in Durga Vidhana of Arthashastra, he has mentioned Bhandavahini Kulya, which was probably used for the transport of war vessels. A large number of irrigation canals were built under successive dynasties to carry water from river. Many early kings of the Ikshvaku race, such as Mandhatru, Purukutsa, Trisadasyu, and Bhagiratha, are mentioned in both Vedas and in the Puranas. The famous story of the descent of Ganga by Bhagiratha is narrated in the 9th chapter of the Bhagavata Purana. Now, the story is quite well known, but very few of us are aware of the scientific assumptions in it. The descent of Ganga from the celestial world to the terrestrial world cannot be understood in the literal sense of the terms, as it seems impossible. It is quite likely that Bhagiratha was a king engineer who knew some technique of diverting the river currents by cleaning the river bed. The suggested meaning of the myth is likely to be that the stream of the Ganga was obstructed somewhere in the high altitude of the Himalayas from where it originates. The majestic Himalayas is often referred to as the paradise on the earth. Hence, Ganga coming from the high altitudes has been described in the myth as coming from the celestial world. It seems from the myth that the current of the river Ganga was probably hindered by some obstacle like a glacier or boulder or so. Using his engineering genius, Bhagiratha not only removed it, but anticipated the possible velocity of the river current
falling from the height after removal of a huge obstacle, and desirous of continuous controlled waterfall, he must have sought assistance of other ingenious brains like the sage Jannu and others. However, the entire event has been given the touch of divinity in the mythical atmosphere. The the technique used by Bhagiratha was so wonderful and unbelievable that it was assumed that he could do it only because of the favor of Lord Shiva. It is very common phenomena in Indian tradition that the credit of all great works is attributed to the Almighty. Bhagiratha's bringing of Ganga to the earth can be interpreted as his turning of east flowing current of Ganga, east flowing means towards Tibet, current of Ganga to flow southwards by using some engineering devices and thereby making the northern region fertile. It is very likely that the sage Jannu, swallowing the river Ganga and again releasing through his ear, represents constructing a diversion canal to change the direction of the Ganga. This Jalavidya or Bhagiratha Vidya of our ancestors was practiced in India through the ages, making her land Sujalam Sufalam. I also came across a very interesting reference in the book Ganga by C. Shivaramamurthy, who tells us about how the king Rajendra Chola of 10th century brought the water of the Ganges from where she flows in the north to the region of Cholas, that is in the south. A glance at his Tiruvalangadu plate amuses us, as Rajendra Chola has criticized his own ancestor Bhagiratha. He was also solar, king of solar race. So he has criticized Bhagiratha for having obtained the stream of the Ganges from Shiva, Lord Shiva, through begging. He decides to purify his country by bringing the holy Ganga by the might of his arm. Of course, as a devotee, he bows to Shiva, but as a Kshatriya, he felt that imploring Shiva even for Ganga was not a proper stance. By his might, overcoming the rulers of the Gangetic plains, the Palas, the Gadhwalas, Rajendra Chola brought the waters of the Ganga to Gangai Konda Cholapuram in the south. The only tribute that he asked from the defeated kings was the waters of the Ganges, which was brought by the vanquished kings in the large vessels loaded on the troops of elephants all the way from north to south. This also indicates that the ancient Indians had the knowledge about, or they were rather aware of the fact where irrigation by canals was not possible. And then Rajendra Chola is said to have dug in his capital a 12 miles long tank, named it as Chola Ganga, and used it for holding the waters of Ganga and named it as Ganga Jalamaya Jalastambha, liquid pillar of victory. In Mahabharata, in Sabha Parva, Narada asks Yudhishthira, if tanks, lakes, etc. are built throughout the realm at proper distances for the proper use of agriculture, Kachit Rashtre Tadagani, Purnani, Mahanticha, Bhagasho Vinivishtrani, No Krushi Deva Matruka. Again, here the word Deva Matruka, not to depend entirely on the rainwater. This concern is expressed. In Manusmriti, The king's duty is stated to build the irrigation works. The appendices of the Gruhya Sutras, Shankhayana, Ashvalayana, and Parashara, they also refer to the construction works of irrigation. The ancient Indians had also developed the method of controlled water supply required specially for the paddy fields. In Mahabhashya of Patanjali, there is an explanation of the word kusula, which indicates that a paddy plot was enclosed by a dike, which on one hand controlled water supply, and on the other it would drain out the extra water to the adjoining field. And we may even recall the story of Aruni, which Madam had mentioned in the morning, from Adiparva, who had to lie down at the break of the dike to prevent the excessive flow of water and to maintain the correct flow of water. Now we come to the Setubandha, that is artificial lakes. Kautilya says that Setubandha, creating artificial water reservoirs by obstructing water, is a source of crops. Setuhu sasyanam yonihi, he says. Such water supply is beneficial as the natural rainfall. Hence, he admonishes the king that he is expected to construct reservoir, that is setu, for continuous water supply. He refers to the irrigation work with the help of farmers. Sambhuya Setubandho, he mentions. He also suggests of providing with sites, roads, timber, etc. to the individuals constructing irrigation works. He further offers an incentive of tax exemption for 5 years to the one who constructs irrigation work and quotes various types of fines, danda, for different types of offenses regarding irrigation. An example of the earliest artificial lake, of course, Sudarshana Lake. We have heard about it a lot, how because of the flood, Sudarshana became Durdarshana, and how eventually the repair work was carried out. So I am not going to say much about it. And it is said that this Girnar Dam gave way sometimes in the 9th century CE and was never again repaired, but its ruins are still lying there. Another monument of an artificial lake is probably the largest of the Indian lakes, is the Bhoj-Tal near Bhopal, built in the 11th century by a Paramara king Bhoja of Dhara or Dhara. This lake is called Bhoj Sagar, in which water is collected from the 3 enclosing slopes of mountains and is stored in a reservoir by building an embankment on the 4th side. The fame of this wonderful lake resounded in popular memory throughout the medieval period and has been preserved up to the present times in a Hindi proverb, Tal to Bhopal Tal, Baki sab Talaiya, which means that among the lakes, the foremost is the one called Bhopal Tal, the lake built by King Bhoja, round which was planned the city of Bhopal. The others are mere ponds of water. Kallana's Rajatarangini, another important book, 11th century, is replete with information on canals, irrigation channels, embankment, aqueducts, circular dikes, and water wheels. According to the historian Aurel Steen, numerous channels from Dal Lake and Archer Lakes that intersect suburbs of Srinagar pass through the center of the city bear testimony to the evidence from Rajatarangini. In fact, according to him, in the earliest traditions recorded by Kallana, the construction of irrigation canals played a significant part. He could identify quite a few of the canals with which Kallhano has acclaimed to have been built during the reigns of different kings. One of these canals is Sanmatikula, which is mentioned in the Raja Tarangini by its ancient name as Suvarna Manikulya and can be ascribed to antiquity. Another old canal that Steen could identify is called Nandi, whose name is perhaps connected with that of the Nandaka village referred to in the context of Avantivarma drainage operations. However, the most important evidence of sophisticated water